Needles have increasingly become a part of everyday life. Proper disposal is both difficult and expensive. We have the solution. Simpler, safer, affordable, and fulfills the obligation to protect our environment. A single stick with something like this means tracking down the user, it means blood test for the person stuck, it means possibly medication for an extended period of time. Needle sticks are devastating. No more. Incinerate the needle. Needle goes in this port. It's over. Done. Needle gone. We all have loved ones who use needles. Keep their home safe. Medical offices are loaded with sharps. We are using ancient technology to protect our patients, our staff, ourselves. You know what needle sticks do. You know the cost and the devastation psychologically and physically potentially from a needle stick.
Drew.
Eliminate that completely. Stop using ancient technology. Sand MIDI. It will solve your problems. Find out more at needledestructiondevice.com.
Hey, everyone. It's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Hey there, Terry. You're first in. Hi,
Coughing
Kimberly.
into the mic.
Yep.
Just getting started.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, Trey. How are you, man?
Maybe you have it.
Let's let everyone come on in. Enjoying the sun outside Boston. Well done. Nature's medicine is the sun right now. Thank you for that. Teresa, hi. Jennifer, Cinco de Mayo. Happy day on Taco Tuesday and Cinco de Mayo. How much Metamucil is too much for someone with low motility? You have to kind of experiment with that. I mean, some people need a lot, and some people a lot becomes a problem. So you really have to, in my experience, it's not something I can predict offhand. We have to sort of start building up. Maybe start with a tablespoon and move up from there, or 6 of those capsules to start with, something like that. Maryland is in lockdown still. Let's see why. Let's look at that. And why you're not starting phase 1. Maybe you guys can help me with this. I'm actually confused by the new data out of University of Washington. I've been following them quite religiously, and I've been relying on them very heavily, but now they've added a new category for all the states called infections and testing, which shows the testing rates, and the testing is assuming a stable slope, and I guess there are reasons to assume that, although many states are ramping up their testing, so I don't understand that. I haven't seen them adjust their slope on any of those projections. And they have a new category called estimated infections. So you have the confirmed infections, like for instance in Maryland, 928 confirmed infections, but 3,100 presumed infections. So almost wherever you look in the states' data, the University of Maryland, the University of Washington's data is suggesting there's roughly 4 or 5 times, and sometimes as much as 7 or 8 times, people who have this that were not tested. Now, I don't know if they're basing that on the uptick in viral flu-like illnesses, febrile flu-like illnesses that have not been documented to be COVID. I don't know where this is coming from. They don't explain it. There's no key that explains it. They also have changed the way they report deaths per day into a smoother slope. So I'm looking at what's going on with Maryland. And you guys, you're just beginning your downslope on everything. Now, they put the hospital utilization at the end of their data. And if I look at the hospital resource use, which allegedly was our whole goal in the first place, yeah, you're still just in the plateau here in Maryland. So you've got to get into the downslope, which is going to be at least a week or 2 into May. Let's see.
Drew, what's
you're
the
on
link?
downslope.
What's the link to the new models?
COVID19.healthdata.org. COVID19.healthdata.org.
Same one.
Yeah, and they've really changed the way they're reporting it. They've upped the number of deaths in the United States. They've essentially doubled it. And at the same time, the COVID tracking project does not parse things out very well in most of the states. I've been watching Georgia carefully to try to figure out what's going to happen there, because that was a state where we could see whether social distancing and quarantining was different. If we went from quarantine to social distancing in a state that was, toward its plateau, it should continue increasing in terms of its hospital bed utilization. Does not look like that's what's happening to me. Since April 29th in Georgia, they've only had 500 hospitalized patients. So that was at a roughly 500 per day, which was well below their peak, which was more like 200-300 per day. So it's not increased. It's not headed back up towards the peak again. But if somebody can explain to me what's going on with this data, I would be very interested. Am I not looking? Am I missing something? Is my question here. My suspicion is that you will see another major adjustment just because this was such a shift in terms of the data that they were using and reporting, the assumptions they were making, that there should be another major shift when they report again. But the next reporting is not likely to happen for a couple of days, as far as I can tell here. It'd be more like May 7th or so when they finally give us some more data. So I don't know what to do with this. I really don't know what to make of it yet. It seems like it's a work in progress to me. Saw somewhere that Como is planning to discharge distance learning in, I don't know quite what you're saying. They took into consideration about how much the states are going into phase 1. Yes, they did take that. They took in, Nathaniel's telling me that they took in they actually have a scale there for the backing off of the quarantining. In other words, whether people are opening schools, whether they're opening businesses, that's all in a graph that they have on these sites now. So you can correlate any changes in the disease rate or hospitalization rate with these closures or openings rather. But it just looks to me like they're building in an assumption that people aren't going to properly social distance, that they aren't going to wear masks, and that there will be a significant increase based on loosening the quarantine. But I don't know any scientific data that says that's true. I don't know that that's a fact. So I'm surprised that they've done this. How realistic is a January vaccine? The mRNA guys seem pretty confident that they can do that. I know personally I would happily sign up for a phase 2 trial immediately. Thank you, San Coco, on the keep feathering it. Should we inject disinfectant?
No.
Yeah.
Good news in Arkansas, the hair salons are opening tomorrow.
Uh-oh. So everyone can head
I think
head
everybody
north.
should cheer Arkansas. Woo! I'm sorry.
So my question is, so someone's saying that it's premature to open up. How do you know that? See, we don't know. I mean this. I don't know that it is. I don't know that it isn't. But we don't know that quarantine. There's never been a scientific study to show that quarantine is different or better than social distancing and wearing masks. Okay, we don't know that they're not exactly the same. In fact, we don't even know that quarantine might be worse because we're stuck indoors where the virus is transmitted easily. Outdoors, there's only one case in China documented of outdoor transmission. So theoretically, the safest place for us is in the sunlight, outdoors, in the heat, social distance. Not indoors. So that being the case, I can't understand why they would factor in a necessary uptick in cases. Are they also assuming that people don't maintain proper social distancing? I don't know. I don't know what they're up to here. Maybe that's why I think maybe if they're building those assumptions in, we will see another adjustment in a couple of days when that doesn't happen. Or if it does happen, there'll be an adjustment upward. So this is all very confusing to me. If you're really basing it on science, latest on remdesivir is that it works early. It doesn't work late. I've had experience with it late and it did not work. I'm trying to bring sanity, High Priest. Thank you.
Even though he was in a really bad mood today.
I was in a very bad mood today. I don't even know why. Maybe I'm getting COVID. It does affect you neurologically. It could be the case.
Coming on.
What's that? COVID outbreak in prisons. Yes. Rachel Maddow today is quoted as having said that when we look back, Rachel Maddow tweeted today, quoting the CDC or quoting, I think it was the CDC. I wouldn't swear to that, but it was in quotations. I probably can't find it now. But what she said was that when we're all done, 50% of all COVID cases will have occurred in nursing homes. So that's something to think about. 50% in nursing homes. Does lack of oxygen weaken your immune system? Yes, it weakens everything. People ignoring my mayor in California, also Newsom, anti-corruption. I don't know what you're talking about there.
Address the Garagos.
We did talk
question.
yesterday to Dr. Garagos. There's a Garagos question?
Doctor.
I didn't see it.
Mark Garagos.
Why did you let say half the counties? How is that false? Rub. Please tell me what the data is. Mark Garagos yesterday said that half of the counties in California have 0 cases presently. So tell me what the actual data is. I'm all ears.
Might be false. I know there's a lot less in Orange County. They're not having as
Yes,
many.
Orange County is way down. And in the beach cities, and particularly the open beach cities, are way down. So,
Everybody did their part. They stayed inside, and now we have to wait.
yeah, I feel like we're a little bit back into the, remember when things were about about a month ago, when things were really confusing and we couldn't tell, are we getting better? How bad is it going to get? How much are we going to overwhelm our hospital systems? We did not overwhelm our hospital systems, except in 2 hospitals in Queens where we got that under control. But in the entire country, we came nowhere near overwhelming our hospital systems, right? So we achieved that. That was the goal. Now, all of a sudden, it feels like we have different goals and different ways of looking at this, and I don't quite understand what we're up to.
And then we have the headlines in the New York Times scaring the shit out of everybody.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean,
I don't know. That drives me crazy.
Well, it's funny. That may be what's infecting you from me. That has been driving me crazy from the beginning.
I know, but
I am crazed when the press reports medical stories because they never get them right. And that's what caused me to be so rhetorically extreme in the beginning.
Today's
I could
headlines
see
were
where this was going. And by the way, if the news gets good about COVID, you notice they have to now bring in an insect. So we have to go from
that's
from
a pretty
plague to
gnarly
pestilence.
looking bug, though. I saw it.
Whatever.
Looks like a Disney cartoon.
That should be a article in the back of the science section somewhere, not the front page of the New York Times.
What's going on in Afghanistan? That's what I want to know.
Javier, tell me what the LA Times. I don't read the LA Times. I canceled my LA Times subscription.
I know, and I don't know why I pay for the New York Times.
There's some COVID-2 mutations. My understanding is from experts that I have rely on that the COVID-2 is quite stable and does not mutate. Child care centers have, I know it's killer bees, Jason. Child care centers have always...
I'm afraid of you saying that, and then we'll find out it's even worse. It's going to be like a small chihuahua killing everybody.
Oh, you mean that me questioning whether it's a serious thing or not?
Yeah, it's a murder hornet, but they do look pretty gnarly, I have to say.
It's something that needs to be managed.
They showed
It's not a cool thing, I guarantee you that. So.
Somebody posted one like eating a rat, but I assume that little mouse wasn't doing well in the first place, but it looks like it's,
Here is somebody from Portugal telling us, Crispin, saying that they opened Portugal 3 days ago and cases have continued to drop. That is great news.
It's like those meat-eating bees. That's what I thought of.
I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, histrionic. I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to understand where we are now. If I can be as clear as possible, I'm trying to understand where we are now. And if you can help me with that, I'm all ears. Update on Sweden. I don't have that data. Let me look it up.
Mutant murder hornets from space.
I know it's crazy.
I like our YouTubers. They're funny.
Sweden is in this long, protracted resource use that's going to go out until June, which is what you would expect. There's been no peaking of it, which is good news for them. 10,000 total deaths. Deaths per day are pretty flat and stable as well. Let's see what they do with the presumed cases. They don't give us the presumed cases in Sweden the way they do in the States here. Again, why not? I don't know what's going on. I wish somebody would explain that to me. So if anyone can explain to me what the University of Washington is doing with these presumptive case things and what they're basing it on, I would love to know. New Jersey's been having a difficult time all the way along. Would I like an Impossible Burger? I've eaten them. They're very good. I'm sort of on a meat thing right now, so I'm not into the Impossible Burger, but I did like them. When will the antibody testing be available in California? I'm confused about the antibody testing too. I've sent patients for antibody testing by blood draw, and what you get back from the labs is, this is an inaccurate test. We have a lot of false negatives. So even the actual serum testing is questionable. That now I'm confused. I thought that was a very reliable test. So I do know a couple of companies have stepped forward and said they do have a good test. We got to find those tests before we can understand what the antibody situation is. I feel like they've abandoned the strategy to get serologies up and running. I don't feel like anybody's. I don't know. Maybe they're doing it. I just don't see where that's happening. It'd be a good thing.
Somebody asked about opening child care centers.
Yeah, those worried me at the beginning.
I wouldn't be worried because I think they should go back to work and also get their kids in childcare if they take precautionary measures.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess
it's not.
childcare centers worried me more than schools.
I know, but
So I don't
I
know.
mean, if nobody's sick and they have to go to work,
Yeah, Tracy, a good thing you haven't watched TV. They're reporting about a murder hornet that's coming from Japan or somewhere that's highly poisonous.
it's
And
up
if
in
you
Washington.
and if you've ever been stung by a hornet or a wasp, it will get your attention. It's
It
like being
sucks.
shot.
Didn't you get stung by one when we were on a
Yes,
horseback ride in
yes, I
Costa
did.
Rica?
Yes, I
They
did.
love you.
Yes, I
They
did.
stay the hell away from me.
So the tests Rogan is using are inaccurate. Everything's inaccurate for antibody testing right now. They're accurate if they're positive, but they're not that accurate if they're negative.
I haven't had it yet. I really want one.
Yeah, what if the murder hornets get COVID?
Or past COVID.
Christine wants to know, where do we go now? What are my thoughts on the actual numbers? I'm having trouble. Well, you can look at to get the actual numbers, you can go to the COVID tracking project, right? They will give you let me go backwards here. They will go and give you typically positive test, negative test, currently hospitalized, cumulative hospitalized, currently ICU, cumulative ICU, on ventilator outcomes, and all test results. I'm finding that most states are not reporting these things, so all you end up getting is the positive test results, cumulative hospitalization, cumulative ICU use, which is not very helpful numbers. You can't tell what's going on. You can just tell what's kind of happened. Now they give you a historical read, which also is not broken down properly. So again, I can't find a good source for numbers. If you guys have a good source for graphs and numbers, please let me know. I feel like the things I've been relying on thus far are getting kind of goofy and difficult to interpret, and are using assumptions that now I'm having trouble with. Okay, symbiotic organism that will transmit malaria. Yes, I've heard of things like that. Thoughts on Elon Musk? I don't know if that was a manic episode or not, but I like I like everything he's been doing. If it is manic, it's hypomanic because he's not detached from reality.
I saw a car salesman today because I had to drop my car off at the dealer for service, and let me tell you, everybody's like, "When are we getting the hell out of this? Like, we don't understand this." It's sad. I mean, car sales are down. Let's just put it that way.
People's lives are being ruined by this thing, right? And so the question is,
no, I understand.
So the question is it justified or not? That's really the question.
Yeah.
Is it? And I don't know the answer. I can't interpret the data right.
That was the first office situation I had been in because I had to go upstairs and set up your appointment. And I walked in and everybody had masks on and they were just, I don't know, it's just kind of strange. Everybody's like, this is really weird. We don't know what's going on. When is it going to be over? Like, I have all the answers. I was just like, we got to do it as long as we have to do it, I guess.
I'm trying to figure out, you guys have a question about leronlimab. I am trying to understand what exactly this drug does. It looks like some research has been promising with almost 50 patients with it, but I'm not sure what it is. Let me see. It is a CCR5 antagonist. So it's it looks like it's something that interrupts the cytokine problem, if I get this right. No, this is, what is this? I can't read it in real time, I'm afraid. It's a little bit complicated. Okay, one more quick second. It looks like it was designed for HIV, maybe. Is that what I'm getting? Maybe you guys can help me with this in the restream. But it looked like it had looks like it's an HIV type medication, and it looked like it's had some utility. Vespa, what is not justified? I'm sorry, I missed that. I missed some of the conversation here. But I will say again, I'm hoping a lot of this gets people to think about and have conversations again about whether they ever want to be in a nursing home, and what they'd like their family to do if they get so debilitated that they need institutional care. What you want in terms of ventilators when you pass the age of 80 or 85, what you want in terms of end-of-life management and how long you want that to go on for. It's an IL-6 inhibitor, Amy, is that correct? I've been using lots of IL-6 inhibitors, yes. That has had some effect. And if that medicine that I just mentioned the name of is a IL-6 inhibitor, there are several of those, and yes, they've been using those. But you should be having end-of-life conversations and putting it in writing, particularly if you are older.
Like us.
Uh,
How's the horse trail today? Did they close it off?
Yes, they have. They were actually, Mark was telling us yesterday they were planning, or somebody was telling me yesterday they were planning on getting armed guards.
Yeah, that's what he said. But what did Adam
I'm
experience
sure
that
he
yet?
was on it. I'm sure he was on it. He will call me tonight.
And give you the update?
He will be talking to me as he walks on the trail. RSH, thank you for the feedback on Midnight Gospel. Everyone needs to watch Midnight Gospel, particularly the first episode and the last episode.
God bless you. Double God bless
Maybe
you.
I am getting COVID. That's why I've been so agitated.
Oh, shush.
The Great Depression killed millions and led to World War II. We need to avoid that for COVID. Yes, I would agree with that. If we practice social distancing, wash our hands, wear masks, avoid stale air, blah, 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 do I feel we are in control of our own COVID destiny? I don't know. Exotic life hacks. I don't know. I don't know because we don't have the science. I brought this up with the head of the LA County Clinical Services, and she said, I pointed out that we had no science. This was a presumed policy initiated by a 14-year-old young lady in Albuquerque, Arizona, and that computer models were built around her original studies, the 14-year-olds, and that became our national policy all of a sudden. So there's nothing to now, unless there's some data out there I'm not aware of, and I'd be all ears if somebody knows something about that. I'm very, very interested in that. Apparently, a FEMA report. No. Oh my goodness. So, okay. So Garagos is going to be on my Fox 11 show tonight to talk about.
Oh, he is?
To talk about his suits against the state of California. What are the mental effects of COVID? If you actually have COVID, it can be anything from encephalopathy, meaning you get confused, to depression, to Guillain-Barré syndrome, to various nerve damages. Lots of stuff going on with neurologically with this virus, as with other severe viral illnesses. HIBA, yes, the virus will, when we loosen the reins, the virus will increase, right? Or if not increase, it will at least persist. And our job then is to create an army of people. California is actually doing a really good job with this, of training what they're calling, I think they're calling them virus detectives, to go out and determine who's got it, isolate them, contact their contacts, isolate them, test everybody. And then that's the old-fashioned way infectious diseases were dealt with. That's the way we always did it. And the only time that didn't happen was in medieval times, when people hid in their houses and isolated themselves with the infecting agents and the rats that transmitted it.
Because they were afraid that the virus would come in the window.
Made everything worse. So to point at medieval times as the model for what we're doing now, I'm not sure that's such a smart thing. Again, I'm open to the science. I'd like to see, but nobody's been able to give me that science yet. So if anybody knows of any studies that show that quarantining of a population is superior to social distancing and masks, I would love to see that data, or anywhere that even in a computer model that is done. Okay.
Do you feel sick?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. Just allergies.
I feel like I need to go running is what I feel like. I'm agitated. So am I obviously that way?
No, you sneezed and you coughed when we opened the thing. I was just curious. But
Gold's Gym went bankruptcy today.
Oh,
BK, which is
that's too bad.
Bad times.
What about Equinox? They're probably next.
New Zealand is not the model because it's such an extraordinarily different kind of situation there. It's an isolated island.
Do I need to put on a mask?
For me?
Yeah.
I don't see it. You made me go to the grocery store today. Maybe that's how it happened.
I made you?
Yes.
I didn't. Thank you. I went too.
It's fine to wear the mask during the heat, they're asking. Okay. Can you explain the graph this is the Washington site that shows mobility? I don't understand what this is showing. So what it is showing is, I don't know okay, let me get it up here. What it is showing, there we are, is let me see what's on, oh, shoot, 1 second. let's just take California, for example. So they have at the top of the page, they have these social distancing criteria: educational facilities closed, gathering restrictions, stay at home, any business closure, all non-essential business closure. And when they take that away, they will slide over the little icon, and they're starting. They have a graph beneath that, which is a graph on social distancing, and I guess they're looking at 0 as our baseline, and then this is the change in our mobility. I think they base it on phone records. They're looking at how people's phones are moving around and where we're going. And we have reduced our mobility in California by over 50%. So as compared to how we were moving on essentially February 15th, I guess it is. Let's say March 1st. As compared to how we were moving on March 1st, our mobility reduced 52% or 55%. So we are we're a lot more than half the time we are staying at home as compared to how we were before. Now, what they're going to do is look at those phone records. They're using, pings of phone towers and things to see how all our phones are moving around. They will move that graph up depending on how we change our mobility with the changes in our social distancing orders. The reason I think this is a fool's errand is movement is just showing how much we're moving away from quarantine when we don't know that quarantine is the necessary goal. See, that's what's confusing me. So it's difficult. Let me see what you got. Hair salons, barbershops, etc., opening up in Texas. I know they are. That's true. Scared to be tested. I'm scared to be tested. I hear they shove a swab farther than you would think possible. Yes, it's uncomfortable. It goes way up in your nose. It's not that bad, and it lasts only a second. I did not hear Dr. Katz on Adam's show, but Adam told me all about it. Hotel room sanitation when traveling. There's going to be a lot of UV light products. I'm going to be working with one of these folks. That Susan, you're going to love this.
Okay.
The guys that make the needle destruction device are coming out with a UV wand that you put slowly, you run slowly over your seat and your electronic equipment at your seat and your tray table on a plane.
So you can see.
And in 30 seconds, it's all 99.9% clean of bacteria and virus. Ooh. So you don't have to take the sloppy wipes out and wait for it to dry and all that kind of stuff. And
I'm going to do that anyways.
Upset your neighbors. It's literally a wand. You pour, and you thereby you can also go in cabs and Ubers too if you're not worried about the driver. But in terms of the seats and things, you can carry.
Or on a
I think these UV light wands are going to be part of our future.
Subway would be good because then
Subway. I really think this thing is the future. These kinds of things. So I want one too. Yes, we jumped from 65,000 deaths to 130,000 deaths. I'm assuming that's based on the idea that this will persist if we are not in quarantine. So that makes some sense. No, not an airborne HIV. No. Didn't they have UV lights in ICUs long ago? I believe that's true. I got to get some data on how accurate that is and how sustained that is from the UV lights, though. But I think that may be the future, from what I understand. Is there a dangerous new strain? No, there is not. How is Sweden doing? As I mentioned earlier, there's a persistent, steady march of illness there. So Brown Hulk, let us know how your test turned out. Apple and Google to release specifics on specific locations you were exposed to COVID for privacy versus Singapore. I don't know quite what that question is. Mental health effects of isolation are going to be profound. I didn't finish that thought. And if you've seen, HBO is now running a PSA about it's okay to feel terrible. It's okay to be agitated. No, it's not. No, it's not okay. It's normal and it's going to get bad. I mean, it's not your fault. And it's going to be okay, but it is not okay that we are all having mental health. We are being, I don't want to frame it too harshly, but we are being held in our homes by our government to the point we are getting mentally ill. You can frame it that way if you want. And I'm not saying we should run out of doors or we should ignore our government. I am saying it's not okay. It's not okay, and it needs to be balanced. This all needs to be balanced against unintended consequence. Okay.
What are we doing for Mother's Day?
What do you want to do?
Somebody asked.
What would you like to do? I was thinking about that this morning, trying to figure out
I
what you
know.
can do. We can take a walk on the beach.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan doesn't like to go down there, but I mean, I'll make it easy for everybody.
I think it's going to be you and me.
Okay.
Make it that easy.
We can celebrate on Monday. I just am not. Mother's Day is not a big deal to me, anyway. So.
Well, it can't be a big day when
It's
there's
always
nothing
nice.
we can do.
Nice piece of jewelry or a trip to Vegas is always fun. But since I can't do either of those, it's fine.
Okay. Hibba.
I still haven't had my birthday trip yet. I was going to do it in April.
I know. I feel terrible about that.
It's all right.
Here's socially, the virus showed me I hate my job. That's good news. I mean, at least you know that now, and you can make a change. I think people are going to have lots of insights like that as a result of this thing. That we'll be motivated to change. I hope we change our overall psychological landscape going forward, because this is unsustainable the way we are. Adam and I were talking about that at length
Somebody
today.
said you're slacking, Drew.
Anthony, how am I slacking?
He's tired. He's not on his game. How did you sleep last night? I mean, you sound fine to me. You're not.
Yeah, okay.
You're just as smart as usual. But
okay. No, I am not on my game right now. I know that.
the dog slept all night. He's been waking up every night.
I do think it's, Brian, wise to wear the masks outside. I do. Introspection for the appreciation of life, something like that, Monique, something like that. Something where we are not, that we experienced, we ended up deciding, that Adam and I, that we need to experience shame and disgust again. And that those should be motivators that help us develop judgment so we can be better in terms of assessing things, rather than just going from our emotions. Jay,
so we're going to have Vinny Tortorich on tomorrow.
Good.
I should have put a picture of him up.
That'll be a good palate cleanser.
And the guy, Scott, who lost 150 pounds on his program, he's been getting a lot of kudos on your Twitter, so I'm having him call in too.
Great. He's Scott King.
Yeah.
He has been very vocal on Twitter.
Congratulations.
When am I getting Rudy on the show? We could get Rudy back. He's been on many times.
Or sad mom.
Sad girl.
Oh, sad girl.
How dare you? Sad mom. Exactly how does lack of oxygen affect the body? Oxygen is necessary for all oxidative metabolism, on which every cell in your body is dependent upon. So if the oxygen goes down, the cells are literally choked of its supply. And it's much like you need oxygen to live. It's because your cells need oxygen to live. And the cells will begin dying if they're not delivered adequate amounts of oxygen. They certainly will dysfunction very quickly. What do I personally do for myself on days like today when I'm feeling like I am today? Ideally, I'd like to take a run. Lately, I've been doing that, and it has helped me quite a bit. So that's been my sort of go-to. I normally probably, I would probably go to planning things for the future, and, sort of, whether it's, work or fun things, sort of making a future, which none of us can do right now, which is what's very, very frustrating. It
is.
Do I think churches should be allowed to open? I don't know what to do with that one. Let me start from my basic principle. I've asked for you guys, I want a study that shows me that isolation in the home is measurably different than, say, going to church and social distancing and wearing masks. I mean, all of us let's put it this way. All of us that are in the home are also going to grocery stores and things like that. And it's not causing outbreaks.
Right.
Bonnie Jean, herd immunity will come a lot faster if we open up, but I don't think that's the goal. Somebody's telling histrionic to stop being so scared. I don't know why. I have weights at the house. Yes, I do, Patrick. Okay. A profound modern emotion. Wait. What are you saying there? Fervor and passion. What goes up must come down. So I see. I have to have some downtime since I have up times.
Yeah.
I see. There is no proof at all that staying home is limiting the virus. That is true. It makes intuitive sense that it's helping, but we don't know that scientifically it's better than the social distancing and mask wearing. So somebody's got to show me that data. I'm really looking for that data. Because if it's true that it's significantly better, then I'll shut my mouth. I mean, of course. Again, all I have is 500 people developed Guillain-Barré from the swine flu in 1976. Swine flu was in 1999, or 2009 rather. When will it be safe to see my girlfriend? Good question. Those are not easy questions to answer. The fear is not justified, Jay, in what sense? If you're a young person, you mean? Just getting through it? Probably true. Probably true. Okay, update about South Carolina. Let me see what's going on in South Carolina. South Carolina.
That's where Tyler is, right?
I believe that's true. South Carolina is opening up. They're limiting their stay-at-home order has been lifted, it looks like, and they are mobilizing more. They're now at 30% below their usual mobility, and there's been no increase in cases, and no increase in deaths, no increases in hospital utilization. You do have a little bit of a long run here with the hospital utilization out into June, so it's a little more protracted, but it looks like you're in pretty good shape from what I can see there. Legionnaire's disease was in the 70s. It's still around. Is it possible? No, the virus is not mutating as far as we can tell. Susan Sly wants to know about dating during the quarantine. What do you think?
I mean, I have two boys here, and I've not seen any women, so it's not easy. And I honestly, I've been out of the loop for a while, so I can't tell you my personal opinion. I assume there's a lot of sexting going on, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that would work.
Florida
Drew, you're
has
probably better at this than me.
Okay, Florida has very, very limited hospital utilization. Total deaths anticipated to be around 4,000 or so. The daily death rate has not changed. There's quite a range in that death rate, though. And in spite of, let's see where you guys are with mobility. You've increased your mobility to about 30% of where you were. You lifted the stay-at-home order, and there's been, according to this, no change in the confirmed infections, though they are stretching out the presumed infections or estimated infections out a little bit longer to like July. Again, I'd like to know why. I'd love to know what they're thinking, and what the numbers are based on. It all seems very speculative right now in terms of what they're suggesting. So essentially what I'm seeing in most states is that you're not going to see a significant uptick. You're just going to see a prolongation, which was, again, our goal, which was flattening the curve, not overutilizing the hospital resources. If we are trying to eliminate cases and eliminate death, that is a different goal. That is a different goal. And I've not heard anybody say that that is their end point. They'd like to do that. I'm sure they'd like to do that. But I've not heard anybody say that in the CDC that is their end point. So I'm not quite sure what we are doing and what the University of Washington is telling us on their models. Okay. Small businesses and how they recover. I don't know the answer to that. Any new studies on hydroxychloroquine? They're coming. My prediction is they'll be mixed. Doctors are using it like crazy. It seems to have some effect, but I'm not. See, the hard part is you got to remember, 99% of people get well from this virus anyway, right? It's got about a 1 or 2% fatality rate. And so that other 98% are getting well. And if you put them on hydroxychloroquine, they get well anyway. So it's very hard. You have to come up with very big numbers to be able to say anything about that. Does the size of exposure correlate with the severity of illness? There was some thinking that way. I think that's largely dropped away. I don't think. Israeli news on antibodies, I don't know what that is. I'll have to look it up after we finish up here. So we ain't open if 95% of people won't die. It seems like we ain't going to open if 100% of people don't die. So that's my question. What is our goal? You hear people say it all the time. One death is too many. Well, that's 100% now. And so if the goal is 0% fatality, that's almost impossible. So it prevents discourse if we say that's your goal. Then there's like, okay, well, we have nothing to talk about because we will never get there. We'll never get there. Not in the short term anyway. UV light, you're talking about UV light inside the lungs. There is a study being done at Cedars-Sinai where they're putting UV light down the endotracheal tube of patients with COVID who are on a mechanical ventilator. They're sticking UV light down to see if they can help reduce the viral production that way. They are calling it an antiseptic or disinfectant UV light, they're calling it. And it seems like that's what he got confused about when he was talking about it at the podium. But that research is being done at Cedars-Sinai Hospital here in Los Angeles.
So once again, we're going to have Vinnie Tortorich tomorrow with Scott King, who had a huge transformation by using Vinnie's diet plan.
Fox announced a new strain. I don't know what that is, your new strain thing. I mean, the virus can always mutate a little bit, but...
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
yeah. Okay, but Vinnie will be here tomorrow. Okay, Susan, how long have we been up here?
43 minutes.
Okay, I think I want to do a little bit shorter thing today. Tomorrow, we'll be here with Vinnie Tortorich about noontime. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Around noon.
Maybe 12:30, depending on when you get back.
I'm doing a very cool podcast with Emily Hampshire. It's called Hump Day with Hampshire. Take a look for that. It's actually it's actually a fundraising podcast for the Actors Fund.
That's nice.
YouTube channel. It's simulcast to Instagram. So look for Hump Day with Hampshire on Instagram Live and YouTube.
What time?
At 2:00 Pacific time tomorrow. So the same time we're doing this now, you can find that tomorrow. Hump Time with Hampshire. It's
on
she
Instagram.
plays.
What's the Instagram? Do you know?
I don't know. I guess the Actors Fund. But Emily plays Stevie on Schitt's Creek, if any of these are Schitt's Creek fan, and I'm very excited to talk to her. And she is a Canadian actress who is having fun now as part of the cast of Schitt's Creek. So anybody Schitt's Creek fans out there? Are you? I'm waiting to see if you guys are as excited about this as I am, because I am a big
moving in.
Schitt's Creek fan.
You're moving in. I don't know what the Instagram thing is, though. They didn't tell you which Instagram.
Instagram Live.
They didn't say,
I would look. I'm just reading you what I have.
We'll find out and put it on your Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's on there. We'll figure that out.
Which article, Matt, do you want me to check out? I'm happy to check it out. If you give me the link, that'd be great. Schitt's Creek was bad, Shane. That's, some things are...
Don't ruin Drew's day. It's already bad enough.
Yeah. Schitt's Creek is so good that if you say it's bad, I have to worry about you, Matt. I have to worry about you. I'm not saying you have to be a big fan, but to call it bad, it becomes bizarre to me. Okay. Duncan was so cool the other day. Thank you. And go watch his Midnight Gospel. That's what you should watch. I mean, that is his greatest creation so far, I'd say. Yes, antibody to neutralize the virus. There are several of those out there that may be useful one day, but they have to do the human studies on that stuff. County with extremely low amount of cases. Whoever, by the way, when Garrigo said there were 0 cases in 50% of counties in California, please refute that data. You did not come back at me with that. If that's not accurate, I need to know what the accurate numbers are.
I mean, just because you agree with somebody doesn't mean you believe that.
I didn't even agree. I didn't know it to be different than the truth, so I'm not going to say. How dare you?
You have to be the devil's advocate with everything every guest says.
No,
so that you don't look bad. I don't get that. God forbid somebody said, oh, COVID-19 is because it was the 19th strain. You went, and then you moved on. You didn't go, oh, no, it isn't. I don't think that's the reason.
Here's the
Like,
thing about
geez.
guests. You have to treat them like guests.
Yeah.
So I am not some sort of gotcha news organization. I refuse to do that.
I mean,
I think, Margaret, I am in a bad mood.
Mark was a little bit, he gets extreme. He's a little bit of an exagerator sometimes.
Well, not really. We'll see. I mean, maybe he was right on that. No
Go
one has
sue him.
refuted that
Don't yell at
data,
us.
so please tell me. Yes, we've had Chris Bell, we've had Theo, we've had Brian, we've had everybody. Yes, we've had them over the years. But you have to go on my website and see the different podcasts we've had. So some of it's the Dr. Drew podcast. Some of it is something called #YouLive. What do we call the one with Bob?
This life. #You live. Which one are you?
They're asking about Theo Vaughn, and they're asking about
Theo was on that show.
Yeah. And so you can find lots of different guests we've had. The streaming show is something we've been doing since we've all been locked in the house. We've just essentially been doing that. We started just before.
We started to Ask Dr. Drew.
Yeah, This Life has been going on for years.
And then we thought, we'll just do this little thing called Dose of Dr. Drew for fun. And then here we are.
Sly Wolf, what are you talking about there specifically? Vitamin D is probably helpful. I think vitamin D, I think zinc, I think C are all helpful. If you're on Humira, probably okay to go out, but you got to talk to your rheumatologist about that.
Maybe a little True Niagen.
You want to see the Chris Bell episode? We had the Bell brothers on a couple of times, right, Susan?
Yeah, Soul Patrol.
And I was on Mark Bell's podcast too. You need to get into.
Those are still podcasts. They're still up.
Right, they're up. I'm making excuses for him.
Making excuses for who?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Him? God?
I know. I don't know what he's talking about.
Who is it?
They're calling this one an overdose of Drew. Okay, well, I'll get out of this quick. I think you may be onto something.
Blackjack. He's been kind of funny today, actually.
Well, I think he's onto something.
I know. He has been funny. I like YouTube. They're fun. I mean, everybody's fun, but they've been kind of funny today.
What are the chances this thing burns out in the summer? There are some chances. Again, it's a seasonal respiratory virus. It may die. It may suddenly die out even. That's possible, but we can't rely on that. Monique, you can ask Rogan, of course.
I will do another show with psychics eventually, when the science when everybody's tired of the science.
George, about Mr. Pig, about Norman. Christina and I got into some stuff with him that will be coming up soon, that beyond my description, beyond my comprehension. I suggest, Mrs. Pinsky, you do not watch After Dark.
Okay.
When we get into it big.
Just put a banner up.
Norman.
It's actually Christina this week.
This isn't the one, though, that you're right about the slop, George, but did you see where the slop came from and what it actually was?
I don't want to know.
No, you don't.
I'm so glad I don't produce that show.
How come bats don't die from it? Because there are plenty of viruses that coexist with us all the time that don't cause disease. Same thing with animals. And there are viruses that intercalate themselves. Our DNA is literally a graveyard of old viruses, and literally so. And there's lots of viruses that live with us that don't cause illness, live around us, live in animals. Yeah, you're looking at old, Grant, you're looking at old videos there. That has been very carefully looked at, and they can't make anything of that.
What old videos of what?
Of the doctors talking about, all right, here's the deal. The ARDS, the adult respiratory distress syndrome that develops from the pneumonia from this virus, is not the usual ARDS. Usually ARDS causes a lot of lung stiffness and fluid filling. It's not doing that. It seems to be inflaming the lungs and blocking the ability to exchange oxygen. And part of that inflammatory response is this cytokine cascade, this cytokine storm that's develops that also attacks every other organ of the body, causes shock. It is associated with an antiphospholipid hypercoagulable syndrome, which is why people get their legs cut off because they get clotting. They also get a diffuse intravascular coagulation type syndrome in addition. We know all that. Doctors are targeting that. They're going after that aggressively all the time. We have not, in many cases, been able to control that. The idea that we are not treating this as ARDS is accurate. ARDS, normally we use pressures and oxygen delivered through ventilators to improve the ARDS and essentially dry people out. The people argue about that. And that's treating ARDS and anti-inflammatory sometimes, but this doesn't respond to that. This is a different kind of ARDS. And yes, we are well aware of that. We are well aware of it. And doctors are improvising in all kinds of interesting ways to try to attack that cytokine storm. Why some people get that storm is what is not understood. It seems to be people with metabolic syndrome, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, insulin resistant, especially if they're obese and especially if they have an antiphospholipid syndrome. So that's a very complicated combination of physiologies and biochemistries that doctors need to keep working on to figure out. There may be a time one day we can do a genetic test and say, hey, you're going to get a bad COVID case. You're going to get a mild COVID case. Go ahead and get exposed. Don't worry about it. Right now, we only have general sorts of way of saying that, which is, hey, if you're over 65, if you have a metabolic syndrome, if you are obese, you got to watch out. But we may have much more accurate ways to deal with that.
We're going to all be obese if we don't get to go back to the gym.
Monique, what about the CO2 output? What are you asking specifically? People don't initially at least accumulate CO2 with this illness. They just drop their ability to oxygenate.
Somebody knows when Catherwood's going to be on the show. He was on the show.
He's been on many times.
Yeah, he was on this one. He's been on. He was on recently. Just scroll down our list of shows and you'll see him.
Okay, I'm going to need to wrap this thing up. Thank you, guys.
It's Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. What time is it? Oh,
Zicam, I don't know about Zicam helping, but about 50 milligrams of zinc, I think, is what people are recommending. Are doctors getting a better at treating this disease? Yes. There was a very rapid run-up in our ability to, our improvement in how we treat it. It seems to have kind of plateaued right now. We need to get more research in, and we need more antivirals. We need more antivirals and the monoclonal antibodies, and we need combinations. My prediction is going to be combinations of these things that really lead to the improvements. I was there when they developed AZT. AZT was a beachhead. It was like we had taken over a little region and went, okay, we can do something with antivirals. Now we got to improve these antivirals. We got to develop combinations of antivirals. And I don't know if you noticed, but Dr. Fauci, who was there at the time, said the same thing. He was saying we have proof of concept. We can reduce length of hospitalization. Now let's see if we can reduce it more, if we can give more potent antivirals and combinations of antivirals. That's where the solutions will come, much like we did with HIV and AIDS. I will stay hydrated. Fauci's not losing hope, I don't believe. I don't believe he is. That's interesting. And we thank you guys for stopping by here. Susan, anything else before we wrap this up? Susan?
No.
No?
I guess tonight you'll be on
Fox 11 with Mark Garagos.
Mark Garagos.
Fox 11 with Mark Garagos. He will be on tonight. He is going to talk about his suits of the city and the state on Fox 11 at 7 o'clock Pacific time.
With Alex Michelson.
Yes, Alex will be there as always.
And if you want a good laugh, watch us on Facebook.com/Dr. Drew and watch everybody try to be funny and troll through the whole thing.
Oh, is that what they do?
I memean, it's just redundant now. I mean, this feed today was my favorite day. I want to thank everybody and all your great comments and thank you for it. I mean, we don't have as many views because the people that are shitting on us the whole time aren't here, which is great. I don't even care. But if you want to watch the chaos, go ahead and go to Facebook.com/Dr. Drew and listen to the show if you're not in the local LA basin. It's actually really interesting. Very popular with most of the people that I've talked to.
Okay, I'm looking. I told you about that drug, leronlimab. It is a CCR5 inhibitor. It's again part of the attempt. Essentially, as I see it here, it's part of trying to reduce the effect of the cytokine storm. And so these kinds of things, again, will probably be used in combination. We'll probably be using, this does not look specifically, we'll have IL-6 inhibitors. we'll have JAK inhibitor, we'll have all these different combinations of inhibitors that will help us reduce some of the inflammatory reactions associated with this. I don't know why they're targeting the CCR5 particularly. Somebody must have a theory as to why it's helping activate the cytokine storm is my suspicion. Let me see here if I can get it up here. Yeah, this was all really designed for HIV and AIDS. So we'll see. I know there's some studies being done, and it looks a little bit promising. That is your answering your question. Do I think a vaccine can be available at the end of the year? There is some evidence to believe so. And certainly if they're in phase 2 or 3 trials, you can count me in. I will be happily one of those subjects. All right. Andrew, what are you talking about? Huge success in COVID paper coming this week. Is that the CCR5 inhibitor you're talking about? Let me know if that's true, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Andrew, please let me know what you're talking about. I would love to hear when that paper's coming out and what it is and where you have had that success. With this CCR5 inhibitor. Okay, good. Well, that's great news. So can you, Andrew seems to be somebody that knows something about this. Can you see, Andrew, will this be used with an IL-6 inhibitor, or will it be used by itself? Will it also be used with antivirals? See if you can give me a brief little answer to that. My expectation would be that, yes, you'd be monkeying with the combinations of these things. Andrew, give me that answer. There he is. No by itself. Don't you think that it should be used in combo or could be used in combo, Andrew? Or is it good enough by itself? If it's that effective by itself, I mean, great. I know isn't CCR5 also androgen dependent in some way? Let me look that up real quick. CCR5, androgen. Yeah, there's a suppressive role of androgen receptor signaling. So you have a direct CCR5 inhibitor, evidently, Andrew. It's very effective by itself. I'd heard they're also working on some androgen blocking medicine to affect that same receptor site, I believe. Am I right on that? You seem to know this well, so I'm interested in picking your brain a little bit. Sorry. Dr. Patterson on YouTube is what you're saying. Okay. I'd rather see the publication. Okay. Treating rants. I don't know what that is. All right. We got a
Rantees. This guy's name is Andrew.
I know. Andrew's who I'm talking to.
Huh?
Andrew is who I am talking to.
Rants. What's rants?
Why are we having 20,000 new cases a day? I don't believe we are. Let me quickly.
In the whole world?
Well, of course we're having.
In the whole world.
Well, no. Let's see. I will get that data really quickly. We should be having thousands of new cases a day. I mean, this thing is not going away. It's still going to be around for a while. So much like any flu, it continues
Rantees.
to percolate around.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, we seem to be having easily that many cases per day. But most of them are very mild again.
It's a chemokine expressed by hematopoietic and non-hematopoietic cells that plays an important role in homing and migration of effector and memory T cells during an acute infection. Okay, so I have no idea.
Well, what that means is that it's again like a cytokine.
A receptor.
It brings T cells into the infection. But why T cell mobility should have that big an effect on this particular illness does not particularly make sense to me, but I will take your word for it and I will go look it up and look at it. But there's lots of really interesting, clever stuff going on like this. So expect more interesting, novel treatments in the next 2 weeks. And if they are really as good as we think they might be, you might see a real drop off in the death rate. I'm a little surprised we haven't gotten there yet, but I do know a lot of interesting stuff is coming. So thank you, Andrew, for sharing. Okay, I see that. For sharing that data with me, and I will take a good look at it. And
nice.
Thank you for that. And we thank you all for spending a little time with us. And we're going to sign out. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon with the great Vinnie Tortorich with a little bit of a different
Around
emphasis.
noon. Might be 12:30. Depends on when you get home.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's Pacific Standard Time.
All right. We'll see you then.
Smile.